Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Rugby Ascendant segment. It's always nice when your analysis is validated. That isn't always the case, but in this case, it was. I did tell people to watch out for Portugal. If you watch the pre-World Cup analysis that I did with Nas Bota, you'll see that we both talked about Portugal, and I said that Portugal could surprise. And son of a gun, did they ever surprise in this World Cup? They were perhaps the most fascinating, exciting team in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Sadly, they're out, though, after the pool stage. And let's just run through what really happened here with Portugal. Now, first, I've got to say that unfortunately, during my tour of France, my 1 month there during the pool stage, I could never get scheduled a game with Portugal, probably because there's so many Portugal fans that live in France and Portugal's right next door, and I could never get a ticket, and it didn't work out on the schedule. So sadly, to my chagrin, I never got to attend a game with Portugal, and really, that sucks. I would love to have been at the Georgia game. That would have been absolutely incredible, not to mention the Fiji game, but of course, that occurred after I returned home after spending a month there. But I did get the coveted Portugal World Cup jersey. They had not been in a World Cup since their first appearance in 2007. And so I figured when this thing became available online before the World Cup, I better get one now. First off, it's a very sexy top, don't you think? Beautiful colors. Well done, Portugal rugby emblem there, along with a nice pattern on and the green and red colors. Lovely jersey. So I bought it, but I didn't get to go to a game. That was a little disappointing. But let's talk a little bit about Portugal's journey through this World Cup. In their first game, they played Wales. Now, Wales is a side that looked to be very discombobulated, out of sorts, and really an unknown and likely to perform poorly in this World Cup. But they did find themselves in a very weak pool. In that first game, Wales defeated Portugal 28-8. Now, the score line is a little misleading. Portugal was in this game and was competitive throughout the game, despite the fact that they did not come close to beating Wales. They did get a try, their first try, and a penalty conversion. In their second game, they took on Georgia. Now, Georgia, which has perennially been a World Rugby Cup appearing team, has almost been upset in the past. Namibia nearly pinched them in 2015 in England when they defeated them 17-16. That's the last international test match of Jacques Borger's career where he was injured. So they've come close to being upset before. But in this game, Portugal got a penalty at the end and sadly missed it, or they would have won this game 21-18. As it is, they got a tie out of it. So they performed very well in that game. Next, they played Australia. Now, Australia won this game 34-14, but it was a lot more competitive than that would indicate. The Portuguese played very competitively, played very ambitiously. They were very aggressive. Australia was fighting for its very life. They were in a lot of trouble here, Eddie Jones' side, and they prevailed 34-14. So it comes down to the final game this past weekend and the last game of the pool stage, Fiji versus Portugal. All Fiji had to do to qualify, to move on and move ahead of the Wallabies was get a bonus point. So if they score 4 tries, they get a bonus point. If they lose a game by less than 8 points, by 7 points or less, they get a bonus point. If they win the game, of course, they get 4 points. And in any of those cases, they would move ahead of the Wallabies. Well, Fiji lost this game, or we should say Portugal defeated them. The Portuguese were amazing. They looked to be upset mode the whole game. It was kind of boring early on, 3-3 for a long time. But eventually, Portugal led 17-10. Wow. Now, they gave up an easy try on a couple occasions here, which is a bit surprising, but they held in there and they scored late in the game. What an incredible performance. And I have to tell you that the Portuguese have some truly amazingly talented players. At fullback, Manuel Cardoso Pinto was quite good, although he was injured late in this game. And then the guy who was my man of the match, hands down, was Rafael Storti, who scored a try and then set up the final try with his incredible carry. Unbelievable work by the wings, not just Rafael Storti on the right wing, but Rodrigo Marta on the left wing. Just fantastic work by this. And a little special shout out to David Wallace. He had a very good game too. And the reason I mentioned David Wallace is that while I was in Lyon waiting for public transport, the metro was delayed for like 48 minutes. Not a happy day. I'm standing there and I wound up having a conversation with a young lady and a young man. Turns out that he's the brother of David Wallace. And he told me his brother would be playing in the final. And sure enough, he was wearing number 6 jerseys. Congratulations, David Wallace, for your appearance there. But Portugal, impressed. A really well done job. Now, Portugal qualified for this tournament through the repage. because Georgia got in, and then we saw that Romania got in, but Romania did not earn that spot. That spot went to Spain, but they were disqualified for illegally using players apparently that weren't qualified to be on their national side. So they were removed, and Romania got that slot because they were next up. Portugal had to qualify by going through the repage tournament. In the repage tournament, the United States beat its opponent and Portugal beat its opponent. Then the two of them met to decide who would go to the World Cup, and they tied. But unfortunately for the Eagles, the Portuguese won based on a higher point score from the first game. And so they went to the World Cup. And they did not disappoint. Portugal earned its spot, and it proved where it was and that it belonged in this tournament. Congratulations to Os Lobos. You were fantastic. We love you. You brought excitement to the game. And it just validates the reason to have that repage slot. You know, last time Canada got it and they were embarrassing in the World Cup in 2019. They won the repage tournament. This time, Portugal wins the repage tournament, and they were a contender. They played incredibly well. Again, to all of Portugal, to all the Portuguese fans, congratulations to Os Lobos. And thank you so much for your wild ride in Rugby World Cup 2023. We loved it. It was fantastic, and you did a great job. And we look forward to seeing you qualify for the 2027 World Cup in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, congratulations to Os Lobos. Job well done, folks.